I was born on the south side of Chicago on 33rd and Cottage Grove, which was in, now that's called Bronxville. It wasn't called Bronxville at that time. And this neighborhood was, that part of South Side was completely rich with business and culture, you know. Sam Cooke, Nat King Cole, Dinah Washington, Muddy Waters, Howlin' Wolf, you know, all of these people. And then you had all of these writers, poets, when I was a kid, that were all, Chicago South Side was just ablaze with culture. By the time I got to high school, I just told this story to some more people. I graduated from grammar school, and my good friend who played trumpet, I played saxophone, he played trumpet, he was a year ahead of me. And so he said, Henry, we gotta go up to the school to a concert. The high school was Inglewood. I was gonna be starting in January, but there was a concert on a Tuesday or Wednesday night, and it was Chet Baker and Stan Getz for about 15 cents in the middle of the week at my high school. But I remember as soon as I got to college, and like, you know, we always had to report on live concerts. One of the jobs we would take would be an usher at Orchestra Hall. So when I was studying conducting, you just seat the people and you go sit in the back of the auditorium and take out your flashlight and study the score while the orchestra's playing. But I remember I was rushing to a concert at Roosevelt University. And it was an afternoon matinee, and I was late. It was the first time I was in Roosevelt University. I didn't know the place. And I was running down the halls trying to find this room, and I ran into this gentleman and almost knocked him down. He said, "Whoa, young man, where you going?" You know, so I got to get to this concert after. He said, "Well, I'm going to a concert. We're probably going to the same one." He said, "Come on, I'll show you how to get there." So we was rushing. He said, "Come on." And we got to this door, and when you opened the door, it was a stage in the audience. I said, "Oh my God, this guy that brought me in, I'm gonna have to come in through the stage entrance." And he went up on he said, "You gonna stay, right? You gonna watch the concert?" I said, "Yeah." So I went to sit down. He went up on stage. It was Arthur Rubinstein.
I love it.
You know, so that's the South Side of Chicago. To go anywhere in America, you had to go to Chicago. You could not go anywhere. If you were in St. Louis, you wanted to go to California, you had to go to Chicago. If you were in Iowa and you wanted to go to California, you had to go to Chicago. If you were in Indiana, you had to go to Chicago. You know, it was the center where all of the trains connected, and that happened, I think, as a result of the stockyards moving from Kansas, because the stockyards were originally in Kansas. When they moved it to Chicago, they moved it at the time of the Industrial Revolution. Ford and all these jobs opened up in the northern part of the United States, and it was a migration of workers that spread from like St. Louis, Chicago, Detroit, all the way. And as a result of that, you had these big ethnic communities. Chicago, that big Italian community, we had Al Capone, remember? The German community, the largest Polish community outside of Poland is in Chicago. This huge Irish community, the largest Serbian community I grew up with. All of these hillbillies, what we call hillbillies, you know, people, Appalachian people was in Chicago. So the radio, when you put on the radio, in the morning, you'd be listening to Polish music, Serbian music, hillbilly music, traditional classical music, jazz, blues, gospel music, opera, the Italian community, and a lot of symphonic music because of the German community, and then you had some small Irish programs that were on. So I grew up listening to this every day as a kid. All day long, it was totally, you know, Now everybody's playing the same thing, the top 10, from one station to the other. So how I got into that's how I got into music. Um, I guess I was about 3, and this was in maybe somewhere around 1947 or something, and Boogie Woogie came along. Me, Lux Lewis, and Albert Ammons. Everybody was playing Boogie Woogie. So it came on the radio. We would be with my grandmother sometime. My mother would leave me and my sister uh, and my other cousins. We would stay with my grandmother while they worked. And Boogie Woogie would come on the radio, and I remember it came on, and it was like, it just wiped me out. I was completely taken out of myself, and I discovered we had a piano in the house. I never even knew there was a piano in the house until Boogie Woogie came on the radio. When I discovered that, I would sit at the piano every day, and wait for it to come on, for him to play that. And when it would come on, I would sit there, and I only had so much time to try to imitate what they were doing. And I taught myself how to play the piano and to play Boogie Woogie. It was frustrating because my hands were so small. I was 3 years old. I've got the record I made called You Know the Numbers, a picture of me when I was about 3.5 years old, sitting at the piano playing Boogie Woogie. I studied woodwinds, clarinet, saxophone, and flute, but I'm not a pianist. I play the piano, it's like most composers do. You had to play piano when I went to school. It's interesting. If you were going to be a composer, you were basically a piano major. It was the worst time of my life because I was a clarinet and saxophone player. All of a sudden, I had to be on par with people that were straight piano players. You know, it was really rough. When I was about 17, that's when I started writing. But the thing was, I always wanted to, I knew I was going to write music because I was concerned about how music was made. I always wanted to understand that. How was this music I was listening to, how was it made? I mean, I wanted to play music, and I wanted to play like all these great people that you hear great people, and that's what you want to do. You want to play like them. I don't care who it is. But that wasn't all. I wanted to know how it was made from the very beginning. That's when I learned how to play the Boogie Woogie. I started deconstructing it immediately. I remember I was trying to figure out how I started trying to make Boogie Woogie pieces. You know, I always wanted to know that. How did Beethoven write this? How did Duke Ellington write this? It didn't matter what the music was. How did it happen? Where did they start, and how do you do it? So by the time I was 17, I had written my first piece. Oh, I've been knowing about them for ages. I don't even remember how far back that's been. I mean, I think I had I know one thing that the way they played bar talk, I remember. I had that. I said, oh my God. I said, who are these guys? You know, they really just like got me when they played that, you know. But I had 2 other producers, Hal Wilner, who I did a couple of recordings for. I was going to do some recording, and it was going to involve Kronos, and that didn't happen. Then there was another recording, I think, with Bill Laswell. I was supposed to write something for Kronos, and that didn't happen, you know. And I said, well, one of these days, maybe, we'll meet up, you know. They did like the improvisational component because uh, a few of the other composers too uh, had the same thing in their work, and that's very important. Um, they know it's important, and I know it's important. It's a shame that the classical concert world, orchestral world, don't understand how important it is because we're not going forward. See, composers and orchestras and music ensembles, they go forward because the ideas of composers. That's how we stretch the concept of instruments and stretch the idea of forms. And you can't, if you're not going to follow the lead, you know, you're just going to stay in the same place, you know. And the world has, the musical world has completely changed, especially with young people. A lot of them can improvise now, and they want to. That's the other thing. I was just at the rehearsal and with the Kronos, and we had a little discussion about that, and they asked me some questions about what did I think about what they were doing. And I told them that I thought that what they were doing was absolutely fine because I didn't put them in a situation where they had to play stylistically in a certain way. See, sometimes some improvisation is centered stylistically, you know, heavy metal, blues, traditional jazz, freer jazz. It's all can get into these little stylistic things. The only requirement there was I gave them a set of, I gave them some things to use, the materials that everything was built from so that they could improvise with those same materials. And improvise the way, let their musicality lead them. And I knew that their musicality would not let them go too far astray, see? Because we're walking on silk here, so don't put on combat boots here. You'll rip the fabric. I don't have to tell you that. So you'll know if your musicality say, look, the fabric is kind of light here, I better tread softly, you know? One thing I wanted to do was to have them have different solos, improvisational solos, and I knew there was going to be a lot of soli playing, that be a lot of solos that's not improvisational. And I also wanted these different formats. It's meant, you know, like one, duet, trio, different types of duet, different types of trios, try to get as much perspective on variations between the players as possible, you know. The idea of like just writing some music, if there's not a human being that's going to play it, I said these all people have very strong personalities. This group has got a history, and the two violins to juxtapose them, have one on top of the other, and then turn it around and have the second player on top, you know. It's not just the violin two on top, it's this personality on top. And that's where I continuously thought about the person, try to keep in mind the personalities, what they brought to the way they see things. And like, I knew that they had a collective approach to interpreting the music in rehearsals too. So like I wasn't worried about it being like the viewpoint of just one individual leading the ensemble, you know. You never know. No, you might think you believe it, and you say, you know, this looks like it's going to be a wonderful baby. And then you find out the baby was born under a bad sign. No, you never know. It's because, first of all, I'm not concerned with it. I'm only concerned about how things. What I'm doing is not for Kronos. It's for the public. In the end, it's for the public. That's what it's all about. You know, music is for the people. How I react to it, how Kronos react to it, is not the way the people are going to react to it, which is great. And everyone should have their own reaction in the first place, you know. And like I said, you just can't even imagine, you know. We see in in record companies, and we don't have that many anymore. Like, but people will have a hit, and then the producers would immediately try to manufacture a copy of that hit and make something similar to it. It never works. You can't do it. You never know what the public is almost fickle in that sense. You don't know what we're gonna like. You know. People like bad food, good food, and you can't predict these things. That you need to be open and ready to explore. That everything is about exploration. We get to where we are because of exploration. That's why improvisation is so important. We never would have a cure for polio if we didn't explore. We'll never figure out the cure for anything if we don't explore. The planet won't be, we won't improve it. We won't improve disease. We won't improve anything unless we have an improvisational approach to life. I just got back into multimedia work. I did 2 productions last year at 2 different art galleries, the Tilton Gallery and the Augustine Gallery, Lauren Augustine Gallery. And this was for a string ensemble with 3 cellos, 2 basses, and recorded voice, pre-recorded voice. And they all played behind masks that were made. There was like about 6 feet mask that you could see through the mask. And so you could never, so that the players were a constant abstraction. So you could only see, it's like I can only see right now, I can only see your eyeglasses. You bring your hand up with your bow. I say, oh, she's got a wedding ring on, and that's a cello bow, but I don't see the rest of you. And then I made a film that was shown and then I did a dialogue tape where I was talking to myself. And then I had a couple of drawings of my granddaughters that was projected. And I put it in one gallery, and then I tweaked it very slightly and moved it to another gallery. The sound, the artwork, the whole purpose was, though, to have the work in a gallery with artwork so that people come in and you're in art, and art is going to be explored. And we moved from one gallery to the sound is different, the artwork was gallery. We had Derek Adams' work in one gallery. Michelangelo Pistolano's work was at the Augustine Gallery. I recorded everything with GoPro cameras and 2 roaming for video artists. And then I took those works and I cut up everything and created 2 art films. They're about 30 minutes long. They have nothing to do with the performance as such. I'm getting ready to release them this year. We just got everything organized to distribute it to hopefully about maybe 200 museums and galleries in the United States, over the 50 states. Maybe as many as 400, we don't know yet. So that's what I've been working on, and I'm gonna do another. Next year, I'm gonna create another media piece that I'm gonna film again. My message would be, I hope you play something I've never heard before. I hope you can hear something that I didn't hear. And I wish I could hear it. I won't be around to hear it, but that would be great. To have a message from the future come back into this time, and I can hear what it sounds like, what the future would sound like. Yeah, that's the whole thing. Going forward, that's the biggest thing. I don't even do music of mine. I don't go back and play music of mine. It's the whole idea of going backwards never made sense to me. As a matter of fact, it's been bad luck. All of my worst mistakes were going back to things that I should have left. Another drink, another this, Or say, oh, I really like that girl. Go back there and have her slap your face again, you know. You know? No, going backwards never worked for me. It's always about forward, you know.